So this is the new Nerf Zombie Strike Sledgefire. We're going to be doing some mods to it. This was more of an impulse buy than anything else. But we're going to be doing AR removal, spring upgrade, and an ejection spring upgrade at the very least. And maybe a thing or two more, depending on how much I like this guy. I have to say, this was one of the easiest disassemblies we have. Take out all the screws in the main body, they're all the same length, and then just open it up like that. If you want to remove the stock and make it kind of a sawed-off look, just do that. You don't even need to make any cuts. So just as a quick overview of how this actually works, this guy here pushes that, pulls this back, which squishes the locks in. And when you prime it, it's actually pushing back a spring that's behind the plunger tube in here. So it's a direct plunger, but it's an indirect means of having a direct plunger system. It's on its own little lever here. It took a little bit of messing around, but this part actually slides right out of that shell. So I don't think we'll be needing that for any in the near future. The concentration now is going to be opening this up, seeing what we can do here and here. So the only thing holding this together are a couple of clips here, 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 and here. So all you need is a screwdriver or a knife just to pop all those open, and then just do that for all the way around the shell, and you can get to the internals. Once this top part is off, this piece should come right out, and we're left with the bare internals. The final thing holding this plunger tube into place is one more clip, just like on the rest of the blaster. So all you really need to do is push down this piece here, and this will pop right out. Like that. Now onto the plunger tube itself. This is being glued together at the seam here. If it wasn't, you'd be able to just unclip these clips here, and you would have no problem whatsoever. Never have I ever had a good luck with this kind of thing though, so all I'm going to do in this particular instance is I'm going to take some hot glue and actually glue the air restrictors in their downmost positions. Now if you want to do this, understand that each time you put a shell in, it's going to have all three in there, because if one of them is out and all these air restrictors are down, then that air is going to take the path of least resistance, and so it won't push out any of the darts if you're missing one of them. The other option, and probably the better one, would be to take your drill directly into each one, then using a spare screw from another project, put that directly in, and it will pin it in place mechanically as opposed to having the hot glue there. Now just take your screwdriver with your magnet, so it's now magnetized, so you don't lose the screw in there. And screw it in place. Make sure the screw isn't so long that it would interfere with the action of the plunger tube. So now you can see that the air restrictors aren't removed, but they are basically permanently pinned down with some screws. If you do this method, make sure that the screws aren't too long and that they aren't peeking through the plastic on the other side. Right now they're inside the bottom plate of the air restrictor assembly, but they're not peeking past it. A way to tell if they are would be to take a long flathead screwdriver, and if you feel it getting caught on something, it's probably because the screw is too far into the assembly. Now I'm going to take apart this front part and improve the little the ejection spring in here. Just something to note when taking apart this blaster, the entire blaster uses the same size screws except for these three here. The one that is slightly shorter are the ones that go on this section here. Once we take this apart, excuse me, you'll see that this is the puny little ejection spring that we have in here, and it's rather weak. I'm going to supplement that with another extension spring that I have laying around, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So what I've done here is replace the ejection spring with a stronger one, and I don't know if you can tell from here, but it's just slightly extended at its resting point, so it will give a full ejection. I also added a little bit of hot glue just to alleviate some of the stresses around that joint. Now if you take a look at the plunger assembly, this spring is actually very beefy. I don't even know that I want to put anything more on it, because I think this plastic would be strained way too much if we added anything else to this. However, the plunger head itself has many air release holes. On the side here is a big slot here and here, and even if you were to plug these, there are two smaller ones right here and right here. So even to get the full amount of air through here, we have to plug up all of this and then worry about getting a tighter seal around this O-ring here. So here you can see the changes I've made to the plunger head. I've plugged up these two holes on the front here. I've added a little bit of foam in the front, not for padding actually, but more to just take up that little bit of dead space that exists in the front. And I've drilled some of these holes here because between the hot glue and the foam, we're actually adding a decent amount of weight to the plunger head. So those holes are just to take off some material and make it a little bit lighter. I'm not taking anything away from here just because these are major stress bearing points, so I don't want to touch any of these arms here. The last thing I'm going to do is attempt to make this stock at least semi-removable. Going to shave off all of this on the sides as well as this little amount here and here. Containment Crew is actually the first one to think of this idea. I just want to try it out myself. So this actually does work. As you could see, the only thing left is two little nubs right there. I drilled through the bottom to basically break up anything that was in here. Drilled through directly through here to lose some of the material that was making these nubs here rigid. So now they snap right in, and as you can see, it's beveled on both edges, so you could stick it right in or pull it out at will. But yeah, it actually works, and there was no modifications needed to this shell. I think I'm actually going to run it without the stock, but it definitely works. So it is removable. So this is how everything should look before the final reassembly. So here we have the Sledgefire with the mods that I've done to it. We're going to do just a quick range test. Level. And you can see the shells now pop out as opposed to just sticking there like before. Okay, so let's take a look at how far they went. 1, 2, 3, between 4 and 5 car lengths, which isn't too bad. I think that's about maybe 5 to 10 feet improvement over the original. Ranges haven't increased that much, but I really like how the shells actually pop out now without having to shake them out. And without the stock, it's really nice actually to have just as a, almost like a sidearm kind of thing. There's one more thing I still want to do to it though. So that's how it looks right now. I don't know, I thought it looked cool. So, with the new Moz, I think it does a little bit better in terms of ranges. The extra oomph of the air pressure behind it actually creates a spread to the darts, if you saw in our firing test, as opposed to just being grouped in one particular spot. It now actually spreads the darts because there's more force pushing it forwards. The new ejection, I kind of like it, especially if you're going to be running around. You don't really care, you know, if you lose that one or using this as a last-ditch blaster anyway. It still feels really nice, especially with the removable stock. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with this. I don't really like the stock on it, so I'm sure I'll figure out something to do with it. Anyway, if you liked the video, take a second and give it a like. I'd appreciate it a lot. And I hope you have the same success I did with the Sledgefire.